Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. Today's video is going to be sort of a motivational one. For those of you guys who are complaining a lot about conscious manifesting being so difficult, it being so difficult to get unstuck from the 3D, from the old story, from the circumstances. So I want to help you all see the situation and see conscious manifesting in a different light, and ideally realize that it's not so difficult after all once you change your mindset and once you start thinking about it and seeing it from a very different perspective. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So as I just said, I get a lot of comments from a lot of you guys saying how difficult it is to apply conscious manifesting because the 3D might be showing otherwise, because the circumstances might feel so difficult, because it's so difficult to imagine a different story, it's so difficult to imagine a different reality when the 3D is showing this and that. It's so difficult to imagine your present circumstances being gone, it's so difficult to imagine any obstacles being gone, and that it's just not an easy thing to do. So first of all, let me say one thing. No new skill is easy when you're first starting out. When you're first starting out learning a new musical instrument, you have no clue. You have no clue how to play it. You have no clue how to go about it. What you do is you practice and you practice some more and you practice some more and you are consistent with it. And over time, it becomes easier and easier and easier, and your skill expands and you become better at it and better and better and better and more advanced. And then there comes a day when what looked insurmountable at some point, now you're very advanced at. And now it feels easy, or at least it feels very doable. Same with training your memory, same with training your muscles to do certain things. It's the exact same thing with conscious manifesting. What you're doing is you're training your mind to think in a different way. For most people, this is not an overnight process. For most people, it takes some time, it takes patience with yourself, but it also takes persistence and consistency. And as Neville put it, it takes a burning desire to change. Because if you don't have a burning desire to change, you're not going to be motivated to make that change. You need to truly and genuinely want to see change in your life. You need to genuinely want that change. You need to genuinely want to see something different. You need to genuinely want to experience a different story. And this is what motivates you to keep going. This is what motivates you to stay persistent, stay consistent. And in the very beginning, before you start seeing results, you go by blind faith. You keep your faith in the unseen, you keep your loyalty to the unseen, as Neville would say, and you keep going. However, and with all that being said, I want to make a couple more points. First of all, once you start practicing these teachings, you very, very quickly start noticing a difference from where you started. It's not that you're going to go months and months and months and months trying and persisting and seeing nothing. You are going to start seeing changes in how you feel in your inner world. You're going to start feeling inner shifts, usually very, very quickly, usually within days or weeks at most. It's not going to be, for example, months and months and months and you look back and you see no progress. You are going to start feeling the shifts in your inner world, in your inner perceptions, in your way of thinking, in how you're feeling, in your assumptions, in your beliefs, and overall, you're going to start feeling better. You're going to start feeling calmer. You're going to start seeing things under a different perspective and in a new light. And all of this is worth a lot just by itself. Even if you're not yet seeing your desire, the transformation that you're experiencing into a different person, into a new version of yourself, that alone should motivate you to keep going. Because chances are you are becoming a much more mentally and emotionally stable person. You're not so easily triggered anymore. You're not so easily hurt anymore. You're not taking everything so heavily and so personally anymore. You start realizing and you start understanding states. You start understanding that something someone might said just came from their state in that moment. It doesn't mean that they hate you forever. They just meant it in that moment that they said it, let alone that they probably reflected your self-concept at the time. So it's not like even an unfavorable situation cannot change. And the hope you get from that, the optimism you get from that, you guys, I think this is invaluable. That in itself and of itself is invaluable. But another point I also wanted to make, and it's very, very important, I want you to start thinking in these terms. Essentially, there are two ways in which to see reality. The first way is what we've all been conditioned to. Since we were born, we learn to trust our senses, we learn to trust our 3D as the reality, the one and only reality, and to take our cues from the 3D, to take our cues as to how we should feel, as to what conclusions we should draw, as to what we should expect from ourselves, from others, from any situation that might be unfolding in our life, as to what we should believe, as to what we should assume, etc., etc. Most of us took this approach in our lives probably for a few decades. Before we stumbled onto these teachings, before we started working on changing our mindset, before we started working on seeing the world in a different way, all of us were used to looking at the 3D, drawing our conclusions from the 3D, taking our cues from the 3D as to how we should feel and as to what we should expect. And what has been the outcome? For most of us taking this approach, the outcome has probably been a hodgepodge of some good things happening in our life and then some bad things happening in our life, as in negative, unpleasant, unwanted things. And we're sitting there in the middle, just hoping that life will treat us well, just hoping that things will turn out well for us, hoping for the best but also preparing for the worst. But at the end of the day, feeling powerless and feeling helpless as to what direction our life is going to take. In other words, we've been waiting for life to happen to us, not realizing that life actually happens through us. So that is the first approach, and that is the approach the vast majority of people take because, like I said, that's what we've been conditioned to, that's what we've believed our whole lives. And so this, you guys, is our comfort zone. This is how we're used to operating. So of course it's going to feel very uncomfortable, and of course it's going to feel very quote-unquote difficult when we're trying to get out of this comfort zone. Even if we know that this comfort zone doesn't benefit us in any way, there's a part of us that still feels very comfortable in that. So that's why we want to stay there, and that's why we're so resistant to all this change. Now, the second way is the way of these teachings. The second way tells us that we actually have the power to influence the direction of our lives. It tells us that we have the power to shape our lives. And how do we do that? By being aware of where our thoughts are, what our assumptions are, what our beliefs are, reverse engineering our life, and making the association between what unfolds in our life, what our experiences are, and what were our dominant states, our dominant energies, our dominant thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, expectations. And by having this awareness and adjusting accordingly when things don't go the way we prefer them, we are able to shape our lives and determine the direction that it takes. And I know this can be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because you're not used to it. Because you're used to operating with the 3D as your reference. You're used to looking at the 3D as the truth and the reality, the one and only reality, and drawing your conclusions from there and taking your cues from there as to how you should feel. You're essentially used to waiting for life to happen to you. And so this new way of thinking, this training your mind to think a different way, may feel difficult, may feel challenging. It certainly feels uncomfortable, just because you're forming a new habit. But I'm going to make a very, very simple argument, and I want you to really think about that, and I want you to reflect on that. If you've been on this world for, say, 20 years, 25 years, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60 years, did that first way really take you anywhere? Is your life where you want it to be? Are you the version of yourself that you want to be? For most of you watching this channel, the answer is probably no. So how about then you give the second way a decent chance? How about you give the second way a good shot? How about you give it your all? How about trading off the temporary discomfort of losing a habit but creating a new habit mentally and emotionally and in the way you think and in the way you see the world for a much more rewarding life, a much more empowering life, much better relationships, and overall becoming a much better version of yourself? If you ask me, I think it's worth it. Of course, I'm talking from my own perspective. I did these teachings, I've been doing these teachings for years now, I've been practicing for years now, and I'm a totally different person. I'm a much more stable person, emotionally, mentally, have a much healthier view of myself, of others, of the world, of life in general. And this is all thanks to these teachings. There's a very famous quote, some people attribute it to Albert Einstein. The truth is we don't really know who said it. It might have been Einstein, it might have been someone else, but the quote is very famous. And it goes something like, and I'm slightly paraphrasing here, the ultimate insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and to expect different results, different outcomes. So one thing I can guarantee you is if you stay stuck in your old ways, if you stay stuck in that first way that I just described, you're going to keep seeing the same outcomes, the same and the same and the same and the same. So isn't it worth trying the second way, giving it a good shot, giving it your energy, and then seeing how it starts working for you? Because you guys, you're going to start seeing that it works very, very, very fast. And it's going to start with your internal shifts, the internal changes that you start noticing, which tend to come very fast indeed. While I appreciate the discomfort of creating new mental habits, while I get how uncomfortable and how unpleasant even it is to get out of your comfort zone, I hope this helps you guys see things in a different perspective. I hope you start seeing conscious manifesting as not something difficult, but rather as a new mental habit that you're creating, and a new habit in seeing yourself and others and the world and life in general in a different light. And I intend that you start seeing changes within yourself and subsequently in your life in general very, very fast. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.